Namaste, YouTube. This is Grandpa's secret to removing your warts. If you've ever had a wart, you know that they're a pain in the ass to get rid of. Whatever you try. You can freeze them, you can burn them, you can cut them off, you can put duct tape on them, but they always seem to come back. And my grandfather has a method for removing your warts forever that nobody seems to know about. I tried to look up information on YouTube about it, or on Google, but there's no information about it. And from my very own testimonial, when I was a child, I had a wart on my ring finger, on my first knuckle on my ring finger, and with my grandfather's method, the wart is gone ever since then, and I've never had any warts again in my life. If you are someone who gets warts often, you might have to use this method more than once. But on that particular region where you have that specific wart, after you use this method, your wart won't ever come back. This is how it works. You only need one thing. All you need, you're not going to believe this, all you need is a yellow-eyed bean. And I'll explain further in a moment. So you're going to take this yellow-eyed bean. You won't do anything with it. You won't soak it in water. You won't cook it. You won't change it in any manner. What you're going to do with the yellow-eyed bean is simply cut it in half. And you take one half of the yellow-eyed bean and you gently rub the inside of the bean on your wart. So you do this for 5 or 10 seconds, and you make sure you do it outside, or you make sure you go outside soon after you rub the bean on your wart, because the last step of this method is very important. You need to throw the bean out into nature, outside. Don't look where you throw it right over your shoulder. And when that bean rots and disappears, the wart on your finger, the wart wherever you have on your body, will be gone with it. And all I can say from my own experience as a child is it worked for me. My grandfather, who's just turned 80, is using it on my younger cousins who have developed warts in their fingers, and their warts have disappeared. So the story goes like this. My grandfather tells me him and his brother, Ira, whose nickname is Wart, spent all their youth outside in the woods playing with amphibians and just getting their hands very dirty, and they would have their hands covered with warts, whether it be from toad or frogs, the urine that you get on your hands, I don't know. And all he knows is his grandmother shared this piece of information with him as I am sharing with you, and he passed it down to me. So this procedure goes like this, once more, very simple. You take a yellow-eyed bean and you do nothing to it but cut it in half. Plain, simple bean. Do not cook it, do not soak it in water, don't do anything with it. You cut it in half and you take the inside of the bean, the exposed portion of the bean, and you rub it on your wart very gently for 5 to 10 seconds. Do it for 30 seconds if you want. The more warts you have, maybe do it for a minute. And the most important part is you dispose of this bean outside. When you dispose of this bean outside, throwing it over your shoulder, not looking where it's going, when the bean rots and disappears, your warts will go with it. And it's as simple as that. I looked on Google for 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe, typing in information about different keywords on yellow-eyed beans and ways they could help warts. Nobody has any information on this stuff. And I feel very thankful that this information has been passed down to me because it's very magical, and with most people's objectified, right brain minds in our scientific dominated world today, it's just absolutely absurd. But to me it's as magical as the fact that you and I are on a giant rock that floats through empty space. Well, it's not empty, obviously. That's a horrible oxymoron. But the idea that the bean for curing your warts is just so crazy to the average people, or to most people today, that they just laugh at it. But I testify, it was this finger, my ring finger, on this knuckle. You can see. Let me get some light on it. There's not even a scar. There's no trace of a wart. And when I was young, I had a fat, eraser-sized wart on this finger. And my grandfather, it was winter time too, my grandfather took a yellow-eyed bean and he rubbed it on my finger, half of the bean, with the inside of the bean, and we went out on the porch and we threw it out in the woods. And he said, okay, it's winter time. It's going to take longer for this bean to disappear, but when it disappears, so your wart will go with it too. I said, okay. I believed him. Of course I would. He's my grandfather. And time goes by. I completely forget about, the procedure that my grandfather shared with me. And all of a sudden one day I look down at my finger and there's no more wart there. Completely gone. Not even a single trace, not a sensation, not any notice of it leaving. It was gone. And you can remove your warts too. Depending on the type of warts you have, it might be more difficult. You might need more yellow-eyed beans. But the basic principle is a yellow-eyed bean cut in half, rub it on your wart, throw it outside, don't look where it goes. When that bean disappears, disintegrates, rots, whatever you want to call it, your wart will be gone with it. And good luck. I will get back to you shortly, a couple months. My girlfriend's dad, who has been plagued with warts, maybe it's because of his diet, I don't know, but he has warts on his nose and on his hands, big warts he can never get rid of, and he thinks by putting duct tape on these warts, he will dissipate them that way supposedly because of the adhesive in the chemical in the duct tape adhesive. Anyway, so I just told him about the yellow-eyed bean method after I picked my grandfather's brain about it. And he told me about how his grandmother told him and his brothers about it, and now here it is being passed down to me. So, thank God for my grandfather. And good luck to all of you on YouTube. I hope you have great success.